Hello guys, welcome to my vlog. Arvan tells a story. South Africa. South Africa, officially the Republic of South Africa, or RSA, is the southernmost country in Africa. It is bounded to the south by 2,798 kilometers of coastline that stretches along the South Atlantic and Indian Oceans. To the north by the neighboring countries of Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe, and to the east and northeast by Mozambique and Eswatini, and it surrounds the enclave country of Lesotho. It is the southernmost country on the mainland of the Old World, and the most populous country located entirely south of the equator. South Africa is a biodiversity hotspot with unique biomes, plant and animal life, with over 60 million people. The country is the world's 23rd most populous nation and covers an area of 1,221,37 square kilometers. South Africa has three capital cities with the executive, judicial, and legislative branches of government based in Pretoria, Bloemfontein, and Cape Town, respectively. The largest city is Johannesburg. About 80% of the population are Black South Africans. The remaining population consists of Africa's largest communities of European White South Africans, Asian Indian South Africans, and Chinese South Africans, and multiracial colored South Africans ancestry. South Africa is a multi-ethnic society encompassing a wide variety of culture, language, and religions. Its pluralistic makeup is reflected in the constitutional recognition of 11 official languages, the fourth highest number in the world. Wow! According to the 2011 census, the two most spoken first languages are Zulu, 22.7%, and Xhosa, 16%, and the two next ones are European origins, Afrikaans, 30.5%, developed from Dutch, and serves as the first language of most colored and white South Africans. English, 9.6%, reflects the legacy of British colonialism and is commonly used in public and commercial life. The country is one of the few in Africa never to have had a dated and regular election have been held for almost a century. However, the vast majority of Black South Africans were not enfranchised until 1994. During the 20th century, the Black majority sought to claim more rights from the dominant white minority, which played a large role in the country's recent history and politics. The National Party imposed apartheid in 1948, institutionalizing profuse racial segregation after a long and sometimes violent struggle by the African National Congress and other anti-apartheid activities both inside and outside the country. The repeal of discriminatory laws began in the medium 1980s, and since 1994, all ethnic and linguistic groups have held political representation in the country's liberal democracy, which comprises a parliamentary republic and 9 provinces. South Africa is often referred to as the Rainbow Nation to describe the country's multicultural diversity, especially in the wake of apartheid. South Africa is a middle power in international affairs. It maintains significant regional influence and is a member of both the Commonwealth of Nations and the G20. It is the developing country, ranking 114 on the Human Development Index. It has been classified by World Bank as a newly industrialized country. It has the third largest economy in Africa and the most industrialized, technologically advanced economy in Africa overall. and the 33rd largest in the world. South Africa has the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Africa. Since the end of apartheid government, accountability and quality of the life have substantially improved. However, crime, poverty, and inequality remain widespread, with about a quarter of the population having been unemployed and living on less than $1.25 per day in 2008 history. South Africa contains some of the oldest archaeological and human fossil sites in the world. Archaeologists have recovered extensive fossil remains from a series of caves in Gauteng province. The area, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, has been branded the cradle of humankind. The sites include Sterkfontein, one of the richest sites for hominin fossils in the world, as well as Zwartekaran Gondolin Cave, Kromdarey, Copper's Cave, and Malaba. Raymond Dart identified the first hominin fossil discovered in Africa. The tongue shells are found near town in 1924. Other hominin remains have come from the sites of Makapanskat in Limpopo province, Cornelia and Florisbad in Free State province, Boulder Cave in KwaZulu-Natal province, Glacier River Caves in Eastern Cape province, and Pinnacle Point, Elandfontein, and Diegelder's Cave in Western Cape province. Despite suggests that various hominid species existed in South Africa from about 3 million years ago, starting with Australopithecus africanus, followed by Australopithecus sediba, Homo ergaster, Homo erectus, Homo rhodesiensis, Homo helmii, Homo naledi, and modern humans, Homo sapiens. Modern humans have inhabited southern Africa for at least 170,000 years. Wow, it's a long time. In 1487, the Portuguese explorer Bartholomew Dias led the first European voyage to land in southern Africa. On 4 December, he landed at Walvis Bay, now known as Walvis Bay in present-day Namibia. This was south of the furthest point reached in 1485 by his predecessor, the Portuguese navigator Diogo Cao, or Cape Cross, north of the bay. Dias continued on to the western coast of southern Africa after 8 of January 1488. He sails out of sight of land and passed the southernmost point of Africa without seeing it. He reached as far up the eastern coast of Africa as what he calls Rio de Infants, probably the present-day Great River, in May 1488. On his return, he saw the cape, which he named Cabo das Tormentas, or Cape of Storms. King John II renamed the point Cabo da Boa Esperança, or Cape of the Good Hope, as it led to the reaches of the East Indies. Dias' feat of navigation was immortalized in Luis de Camões' 1572. By the early 17th century, Portugal's maritime power was starting to decline, and English and Dutch merchants competed to oust Portugal from its lucrative monopoly on the space trade. Representatives of the British East India Company sporadically called at the Cape in search of provisions as early as 1601, but later came to favor Ascension Island and St. Helena as alternative ports of refuge. Dutch interest was aroused after 1647, when two employees of the Dutch East India Company were shipwrecked at the Cape for several months. The sailors were able to survive by obtaining fresh water and meat from the natives. They also sought vegetables in the fertile soil. Upon their return to Holland, they reported favorably on the Cape's potential as warehouse and garden for provisions to stop pacing safe for long voyages. And we continue by South Africa still, guys. Great Britain occupied Cape Town between 1979 and 1803 to prevent it from falling under the control of the French First Republic, which has invaded to the Low Countries after briefly returning to the Dutch rule under the Batavian Republic in 1803. The Cape was occupied again by the British in 1806. Following the end of the Napoleonic Wars, it was formally ceded to Great Britain and became an integral part of the British Empire. British emigration to South Africa began around 1818, subsequently culminating in the arrival of the 1820 settlers. The new colonized were induced to settle for a variety of reasons, namely to increase the size of the European workforce and to bolster frontier regions against Showa incursions. The Boer republics successfully resisted British encroachments during the First Boer War, 1880 until 1881. Using guerrilla warfare tactics which were well suited to local conditions, the British returned with greater numbers, more experience, and new strategy in the Second Boer War, 1891 until 1902. And although they suffered heavy casualties through attrition, they were ultimately successful. Over 27,000 Boer women and children died in the British concentration camps. South Africa's urban population grew rapidly from the end of the 19th century onward. After the devastation of the war's Dutch descendants, Boer farmers fled into cities from the devastated Transvaal and Orange Free State territories to become the class of white urban poor. Anti-British policies among white South Africans focused on independence. During the Dutch and British colonial years, racial segregation was mostly informal, though some legislation was enacted to control the settlement and movement of indigenous people, including the Native Location Act of 1879 and the system of pass laws. 8 years after the end of the Second Boer War, and after 4 years of negotiation, the South Africa Act 1909 granted nominal independence while creating the unit of South Africa on 31 of May 1910. The Union was a dominion that included the former territories of the Cape, Transvaal and Natal colonies, as well as the Orange Free State Republic. The Native Land Act of 1913 severely restricted the ownership of land by blacks and states that controls only 7% of the country. The amount of land reserved for indigenous people was later marginally increased. In 1948, the National Party was elected to power. It strengthened the racial segregation began under Dutch and British colonial rule, taking Canada's Indian Act as a framework. The nationalist government classified all people into 3 races: white, blacks, Indians, and colored people of mixed race, and develops right and limitation for it. The white minority, less than 20%, controlled the vastly largest black majority. The legally institutionalized segregation became known as apartheid. While whites enjoyed the highest standard of living in all of Africa, comparable to first world Western nations, the black majority remains disadvantaged by almost every standard including income, education, housing, and life expectancy. The Freedom Charter, adopted in 1955 by the Congress Alliance, demanded a non-racial society and an end to discrimination. On 31st of May in 1961, the country became a republic following a referendum only open to white voters, wow, which narrowly passed. The British-dominated Natal province largely fought against the proposal. Elizabeth II lost the title Queen of South Africa, and the last Governor-General Charles Robert Swart became state president. As a concession to the Westminster system, the appointment of the president remains an appointment by Parliament and was virtually powerless until P.W. Botha's Constitution Act of 1983, which eliminated the office of Prime Minister and instead of a unique, strong presidency responsible to Parliament pressured by the other Commonwealth of Nation countries. South Africa withdrew from the organization in 1961 and rejoined in 1994. The Mahlabatini Declaration of Faith, signed by Mangosuthu Buthelezi and Harry Krauss in 1974, enshrines the principles of peaceful transition of power and equality for all, the first of such agreements by black and white political leaders in South Africa. Ultimately, FWQ declared bilateral discussion with Nelson Mandela in 1993 for a transition of policies and government. In 1990, the National Party government took the first step towards dismantling discrimination when it lifted the ban on the ANC and other political organizations. It released Nelson Mandela from prison after 27 years of serving a sentence for sabotage. A negotiation process followed with approval from the white electorate in 1992 referendum. The government continued negotiations to an apartheid. South Africa held its first universal elections in 1994, which the ANC won by an overwhelming majority. It has been in power ever since the country rejoined the Commonwealth of Nations and became a member of the Southern African Development Community. Economy. South Africa has a mixed economy, the second largest in Africa after Nigeria. It also has relatively high gross domestic product or GDP per capita compared to other countries in sub-Saharan Africa. $11,750 at purchasing power parity as of 2012. Despite this, South Africa is still burdened by a relatively high rate of poverty and unemployment and is ranked in the top 10 countries in the world for income inequality. Measured by the Gini coefficient in 2015, 71% of net wealth are held by 10% of the population, whereas 60% of the population held only 7% of the net wealth. And the Gini coefficient was 0.63, whereas in 1996 was 0.61. Unlike most of the world's poor countries, South Africa does not have a thriving informal economy. Only 50% of South Africa jobs are in the informal sector, compared with around half in Brazil and India and nearly 3/4 in Indonesia. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development attributes this difference to South Africa's widespread welfare system. World Bank research shows that South Africa has one of the widest gaps between per capita GDP versus its Human Development Index ranking, with only Botswana showing a larger gap. After 1990, 1994, government policy brought down inflation, stabilized public finance, and some foreign capital was attracted. However, growth was still subpar from 2004 onward. Economic growth picked up significantly, both employment and capital formation increased. During the presidency of Jacob Zuma, the government increased the role of state-owned enterprises. Some of the biggest SOEs are Eskom, the electric power monopoly, South African Airways, and Transnet, the railroad and ports monopoly. Some of those SOEs have not been profitable, such as SEA, which has required bailouts totaling 30 billion or $1.82 billion for 20 years proceeding in 2015. Principal international trading partners of South Africa besides other African countries include Germany, the United States, China, Japan, the United Kingdom, Spain. The 2020 Financial Security Index ranks South Africa as the 15th safest tax haven in the world. The South African agriculture industry contributes around 10% of formal employment, relatively low compared to other parts of Africa, as well as providing work for casual laborers and contributing around 2.6% of GDP for the nation. Due to the aridity of the land, only 13.5% can be used for crop production and only 3% is considered high potential land. In August 2013, South Africa was ranked as the top African country of the future by FDI intelligence based on the country's economic potential, labor environment, cost effectiveness, infrastructure, business friendliness, and foreign direct investment strategy. Okay guys, that's it about Africa. Thank you for watching. Bye. See you soon in another video.